Hello, everyone out there. This is Sherilyn Berry here at the Cooperative Extension Office, coming to you still during this pandemic, but things are looking brighter. Today, we are going to talk about an interesting and delicious food that I know you've all had before, but maybe you don't know so much about really. But a few housekeeping details. Go ahead if you'd like to ask a question in a little while. Go ahead and raise your hand in Zoom, or go ahead and message us in Facebook or write in the chat box in Zoom. So today, Gardens and Grub and All Things Food, we are going to talk about a very common food that you had before, but that has much more diversity than maybe you understand, and that has an interesting history. And that is lettuce, also known as rabbit food. I'm really sorry for you vegetarians and vegans out there. Often when you go to people's homes that have not cooked for vegans before, they think this is all you eat, and that's not true. But this here is lettuce, okay? This one in particular is called romaine, and there's a very good reason for that, and we'll get into it in a minute. This actually is a cool season crop. So here in the Piedmont of North Carolina, it's going to grow in the fall. And then sometimes you can overwinter it if you really baby it over the winter, and then you can grow it again, a new crop in the spring. So when you grow lettuce, it's so easy to grow. It has these teensy tiny little seeds. And you wouldn't start the seeds when it's super cold outside. You'd start it when it starts to cool off in the summer to the fall, or you would start it in the spring, when it starts to warm up a little bit, when you start to have some of those, 60, 70 degree days. You're going to go ahead and seed for your lettuce, and it will sprout. So easy to grow, just the easiest thing. I often will start, like if people want to start a container garden for their children, I'll give them a pot of soil and some lettuce seeds, because you can plant 4 or 5 of them and they sprout like nobody's business. They are tiny, tiny little seeds. So in general, when you're planting seeds, the larger the seed, the deeper it goes. So these guys, you practically just mash onto the surface of the soil. You can do that, but I would sprinkle a little bit of dirt on top of them, a little bit of soil on top, and pat it down, because birds love to eat these and they can spot them from a mile away. It's like candy bars for birds. So hide them under a little bit of soil and you'll have a better germination rate. So when we grow lettuce, and it's nice and cool outside, it will stay in this sort of heading variety. We're going to talk about different varieties of lettuce today last, but the reason that I picked this one is this is the romaine lettuce from Roman, is kind of what was closest to the ancient lettuce that developed into all the other lettuces that we know today. So when we cultivate this lettuce, it actually, this is just almost the heart of the romaine. The plant is actually gigantic. It will grow with these huge leaves coming off of it all the way around from the ground up. And normally when I harvest lettuce for a friend, if I want to come to someone's house and impress them with a beautiful head of lettuce for my garden, I'll chop the whole head off and bring it over and present it. But normally when I grow lettuce in the garden, if you cut this off, you only get this one crop. But if you go out to the garden and you just pick off 5 or 6 or 10 leaves that you need for that night's dinner, these leaves will spread out and more leaves will start to grow from the inside and continue to stretch out the lettuce. So you can eat off this same head of lettuce for like 3 or 4 months if you just harvest from the outside. That's why you grow multiple heads. You just keep plucking from the outside and more will grow from the inside. And that goes for most leafy crops. Kale, collards, any of those kinds of leafy crops, just pick the leaves that you need and this plant will stay alive for a long period of time. So most of the lettuce that we're eating right now in the United States, up to 75, 80% of our lettuce and greens right now, spinaches, lettuce, collards, kale, whatnot, most of those are coming from Yuma, Arizona. So that Yuma, Arizona is this like podunk little town. It's not totally podunk. There's like 100,000 people there. But the year round, there's about 100,000 people that live there. And then in the winter time, there's 100,000 extra people that show up. And about half of those are migrant workers. Yuma is a very hot, very dry place in the summertime. It is absolutely desolate. There's very little vegetation anywhere. It is the kind of heat in the summer and the desolate kind of desert that I grew up in the desert, that it's so hot and so dry that there's this almost barely audible, almost like dog whistle that the desert makes. It's like in the middle of the day. You'd have to experience to know what I'm talking about. But in the wintertime, it's 70 degrees all the time, 70, 75 degrees, never a cloud in the sky, just clear blue sky and hardly any rain. Yuma, Arizona is at the border of Sonora, Mexico, Arizona, California, and one of the indigenous reservations out there. So it's this sort of at this like crossroads of places where people are coming and going. And so there's a lot of migrant workers that come through there. The place swells with, in the wintertime, with migrant workers, agricultural workers, and then snowbirds that go and stay in the RV parks. And so it's a very special place where up to 75% of our greens are grown. And this actually came from that area. Now in the wintertime, you would drive probably 8-10 hours north, and Salinas, California in the wintertime has almost the same ecosystem at that time as Yuma does in the wintertime. And that's how we get this year-round lettuce that you can get. They just sort of migrate, and a lot of those same workers work those same fields. So anytime you pick up a vegetable, pretty much any food, but definitely a vegetable or meat, thank migrant workers, because everything that you eat has passed through someone's hands. And this cannot be harvested by a machine. It has to be harvested by hand. And so mainly from Mexico and Central America are primarily where the workers are coming from that grow our food. And so I think of that a lot when I buy things from the grocery store. Fortunately, I have a good sized garden and I grow a lot of stuff. But whenever I touch something less, I think of, the moms that brought their kids on their back and their school-age children out there that are working, and dads that are out there harvesting to feed their families. So just keep that in mind when you enjoy vegetables. So let's talk a little bit about the history of this. We're going to talk about a lot of other kinds of lettuce, but this guy right here is called romaine or Kos lettuce. And it was actually developed for its seeds initially from wild lettuces in Egypt. So Egypt has the Fertile Crescent, and they would, the ancient Egyptians would walk by the river and they would pick these lettuces, and they mainly grew them for their seeds, and eventually developed them for these succulent, delicious leaves that we know today. This is the most common that you'll see in hieroglyphics and ancient writings of Egypt, and also in Roman and Greek antiquity, because the lettuce looked very much like this. The reason this is known as romaine, first it was known as Kos lettuce, and you'll often see that on seed packets. It'll say romaine Kos, C-O-S, and that's because the Egyptians shared this crop with the Greeks on the island of Kos. And that's primarily where this lettuce was first grown and then distributed across the Greek lands. And then again, when the Romans took over, that's where we get the name romaine lettuce. And then actually lettuce traveled up to Holland and developed, the Dutch developed hundreds of different kinds of lettuce up there because the weather is cool. They have a long growing season for vegetables like this. And also a lot of horticultural research and development for a long time in Holland, as evidenced by all of the tulips that were developed there for hundreds of years. They also developed a lot of different kinds of lettuce. And then lettuce ended up coming, that's sort of a European, and it's Middle Eastern to European food. And then during the Columbian Exchange, which we've talked about on many of these videos, where a lot of different kinds of greens like kale and collards and broccoli and cauliflower and lettuce were brought to the New World. That world was already there, but to Europeans, it was the New World. They brought these to the New World, and then Columbus brought back things like corn, squash, sugar, chocolate, what else am I thinking of? Different kinds of beans, all kinds of switch back and forth of what, a wheat came from Europe to us and corn came from us and went to Europe. So it was a back and forth exchange of different kinds of crops. And this one came from first the Middle East and then Europe. So when you look at a head of lettuce, the darker it is, the more nutritious it is. And we're going to start to look at some other kinds of lettuce, and we can kind of compare based on its color how nutritious it is. So lettuce is mostly water. So it's one of those foods that you can eat a limited amount of because it has very few calories. It's rich in vitamin K, vitamin A, folate. Folate is a B vitamin that we all need every day. It's a water soluble vitamin. You can't really have too much of it, but it's particularly important for women of childbearing age to eat folate on a regular basis. In fact, pregnancy vitamins usually are just regular vitamins with added folate. When someone is planning on becoming pregnant, they take pregnancy vitamins to make sure that the level of folate in their body is at such a level that they're enriched so that if they perhaps become pregnant, over the course of the first week or two of pregnancy, when the zygote is forming, the fertilized egg is coming, forming into a zygote, you can have spinal birth defects if you don't have enough folate in your system. So that's why women of childbearing age are recommended that they take folate. And you'll find this on all kinds of enriched grains and things like that. And pretty much any fruit or vegetable you eat is going to have folate in it. So, and a lot of legumes as well. So if you eat food in its natural form, you pretty much have enough folate to prevent any kind of spina bifida or other kind of birth defects. So very nutritious, a lot of water, so you can eat a lot of it and fill yourself up. And there's not a lot of calories. So it can be really satisfying to eat a lot because you're eating a lot of water and fiber. So great crop to have. Ways that you can, when you buy lettuce, ways that you can sort of increase its longevity. This is really important because people will buy lettuce and say, God, it goes bad before I can eat it all. Like, what do I do? There's ways to get around that. If you take this, like if you buy it in the store, a lot of people just take it, drop it in the bag, where your lettuce is in your cart, and make sure that you watch people when they're bagging your vegetables because this is a very delicate and beautiful thing. And if I bruise it, I destroy those cells in that area and then it will start to rot. Also, you get your lettuce, put it up by your purse or your, the front where the baby would normally sit. Put your lettuce up there because you don't want to end up having, especially if you're shopping with kids, they grab a can of tuna and throw it in and it like crushes into your lettuce. That will make your lettuce die faster. This thing is alive still. So we're going to try to preserve its life as long as possible. So what I like to do when I come home, I wash this first, but if you don't have time to do that, now let's assume you've washed it or not. It doesn't matter. Let's talk about washing it real quick. So I don't ever let food touch my sink. Never. Even if you bleach the drains, you don't even know what's in there. You don't know what your kids have thrown in there. If you wash the chicken in there or something, which I don't recommend washing poultry, but if you do, you could have listeria, salmonella, anything like that in your drain. So always put this in like a colander and then open it up. I like to spray it real good with vinegar. You can get a spray bottle of vinegar. You can either buy a bottle and put vinegar in it, or it's better to buy the spray vinegar at the store. It's just vinegar in the bottle, but you're paying the $2.50 for the bottle because the bottle has a plastic mechanism in it. And most spray bottles have a metal spring inside. And if you put vinegar in there, which is an acid, it will rust that spring and you'll only use it a couple of times. So buy the spray vinegar in the store and just refill it with white vinegar, 6% acidity, you're good to go. So I set this in the colander, spray it down real good and kind of massage it a little bit with vinegar or just use water if that's all you got. And then if you have a sprayer, that's even better. Spray everything out, get it all, lovely and fluffed out and let it drain really, really well. You can even take it outside and shake it like this and get most of the moisture off, or just leave it to sit on your countertop like this and the water will drain. The next thing I do is I cut off the bottom. I usually cut off the bottom first, but what this does is open up the vasculature of the lettuce to start taking water up again. And so I cut that first, and then I take a paper towel. And if you don't like paper towels, you can use a lint-free towel like a flour sack towel. So you can use it again and again. But I love me some paper towels. That's why I compost them all, because I love paper towels. They're not the best for the environment, but I buy the recycled kind and I compost every single one of them. So okay, so then you wrap it up so it's like a little baby. Okay, so this is all dry. And what I'm gonna do on the bottom is I'm gonna get this wet. Okay, so now it's kind of like a bouquet of flowers now, okay? And then I'm gonna take that bag, if you've washed it, put it in a clean bag, just like that. Okay, and then you can tie it, but leave a little gap because this is actually still breathing and living. When you put it in the refrigerator, it's going to go into dormancy. I mean, it's already dormant because you've cut it, but it's going to like kind of go to sleep and stop growing, but it'll also die a lot slower. And here's why, because it's got moisture and you've cut that scab off of it. That's like that scabbed over area, what the plant does to protect itself so it doesn't lose moisture, and it'll look brown when you bring it home. But when you cut it off and you put fresh moisture on there, it's going to be able to keep it fresher longer. And the fact that the bag is not directly touching the leaves, this could last up to 2 weeks in your fridge, and you can just open it up, break off the pieces that you need, break them up, throw them in a salad, and you're good to go. And then put this back in the fridge just like this, and it will last so much longer. You can do this with herbs. You can do this with other kinds of greens. This is an excellent thing. And if you're in a hurry, you're a busy mom or dad, you don't have time to mess around with washing it right now, you can even go to the produce department, and they usually have paper towels there. Just wrap it like this before you put it in the bag, and then throw it in the fridge, and it's going to last a heck of a lot longer than if you just put it in the bag. So that's a little tip and trick from your friend Sherilyn. Okay, here's another tip and trick for lettuce. This is another kind of lettuce. This is a Bib lettuce. We're going to talk about these kind in a little bit. See how sad it looks? Looking kind of dry. Maybe you threw it in the fridge and you forgot about it, or maybe it's been 2 weeks and this one's looking kind of rough. Let me show you a trick. So you're going to cut off the bottom again, boop, like that, okay? And you're going to take a container of water, just a little bit. You don't need a ton. I might put a little bit more than this in here. And you're going to put it like this. Now, say you have dinner in like a half hour, and your lettuce is looking terrible. Go ahead and do this, because what it's going to do is it's going to draw water up and increase the turgor, T-U-R-G-O-R, turgor. So when lettuce is like, and this is with carrots, with any kind of, when you pick up a carrot and it's like sad and kind of bendy, you can peel it, drop it in water, and just the nature of the plant still being alive and also physics, it will draw water up inside of it, and it will increase its turgor, its rigidity. So this will be crisp and delicious again. And maybe a couple of them are too far gone and they won't increase their turgor. Just throw those away, and this guy will perk